what we're calling this the science of creating wealth. And I want to kind of walk through that terminology just a little bit. In other words, if it's a science, it's something that's proven. We're not dealing with a lot of guesswork. I mean, what I'm bringing to you is over 30 years of experience of working one-on-one with dentists. 30 years, okay? Over 3,500 dentists, one-on-one, okay? All over the United States, Puerto Rico, Canada, Hawaii, and a few in Europe and Asia. So I'm going to give you a vast, that's what I'm drawing on, is my background and experience of going belly to belly with you guys, your lives, your stories, what you've attempted to do and not done, what you've able to achieve and not achieve. And really what's really wonderful now, it's kind of interesting, as I go around the country, there's at least 500 Joseph Eusepians that stand up and say, I want to share this message with my colleagues because it's made such a difference in my life. Now this goes back all the way to 1980. Okay? One of my good friends, Tony McRedmond, just came and spent a week with me. Tony started in the center in 1986. That's 22 years. He just retired. Every time I get on the phone with Tony, he says, thanks to you, I have this life. Very few people. You know, that takes a lot of guts to stand up and say what you said. Most people forget where they came from. It's like they're here, and I've always been here, and life is perfect. And life is not perfect. I mean, it is just not perfect. And there's problems that we all face every day. So what I like to do, what I created years ago, was a model. Okay? And we're just going to touch a little bit of that today. But I'm going to give you a little bit of theory in the first half, because you're more awake now. And then we're really going to dive into some actual practical applications, some concrete stuff that you can use. But it's a science because it works. Anybody that's ever used it has gotten results, period. There are absolutely no questions about results. It's about creating wealth, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because wealth means something different to different people. Okay? So I don't know what it means to you, but we'll start talking about that in a minute. But with wealth comes one other word. See, freedom. So it's really the science of creating wealth and freedom, okay, in the way I look at it. So, what do we have in common? Well, we all own our own businesses. Yes, or does everybody in here own their own business? Yes? Okay. We all have that in common. Okay? And so every day when we go to work, we have a certain, even though they're small, you know, the center is very small. It's 17 full-time people, but that's, you know, I had a practice in Dubuque that had 28 full-time people. So, and I was one of 5 dentists in that practice. But it's still a small business. And most of you have 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. But that's small, okay? But you still have all the same stuff of running a business that anybody else does. In fact, maybe a little bit more. We're all dentists, right? We're all dentists. Okay? Sometimes, and a lot of people say, well, this works for chiropractors. Yeah, it works for physicians. I just haven't ever had quite the level of interest in that I have in my own profession. And most of us have families. Would you agree? Okay. And most of you are going to practice 25 to 40 years. Some longer. Okay. If you're 60, your average lifespan today is 92. Okay. So people are living longer, and they're working longer. And so there's some interesting changes that are occurring. But, you know, you're not running a dash, you're running a marathon. Okay? It's not like you have a 6-year career as a baseball player. You've got a 25 to 35 to 40-year career as practicing dentistry. So I think, and I don't want to make this assumption, but we all want a practice plan. We all want a plan. If I make any pitch today, it's planning. And I'm going to give you some indications as I go along of the people that are the most successful people that I've ever worked with, because successful people do things unsuccessful people don't. And the number one thing they do is they're methodical planners. Okay? And they put their plans in writing. And they don't just do it once in a lifetime. They do it on an ongoing basis. Okay? Ongoing. Okay? And not only that, wherever they go, they carry their plans with them, and they review their goals every day. Because I'll tell you, if you don't have a project and you don't have goals, you're not going anywhere different than you are now. Now, maybe you like where you are, or I like where I am, right? But I'm not going any further than I am without goals. Okay? That's one thing for sure. So, what to do today, okay? Be a selfish learner. Try to focus whatever is being said this morning on yourself, not on your wife, or this would be good for my brother-in-law, or this would be good for my kid, but really look at yourself and think about how can you apply this information to your life and practice. Because if it isn't practical, it just doesn't make any sense, okay? I'd take notes on anything that grabs you emotionally. If I say anything that you don't like, anything that is a little bit, goes against your belief system, that's what you need to work on. Okay? That's what you need to think about. Okay? So I'm not going to intentionally try to irritate you, but I will. That's not what I'm trying to do. But when you sit in front of people and you tell them the truth about what's going on, as you see it, everybody isn't going to agree with it. You with me? So I'd take notes on those things. And I would say also to listen to pass this on to at least one other person. Those things that you grasp today that you'd like to share with somebody else, those are really important ideas. Whether you want to share them with your children or your spouse or your friends or your colleagues, whatever it is, but kind of listen with that intent as a learner to teach, okay? So, and I don't want the day to be about me, but why? Have you ever thought of something? You guys know what a white elephant is? White elephant? It's like something that nobody ever talks about, but is not true. It's the most interesting thing to me. And you could say, well, how could so many people be wrong? See, wealth is not production. Wealth is not volume. Wealth is not being busy. So if you look at the ads on TV, and if you look at all the multi-level deals, and you look at people that are promoting how to get rich, they always show somebody on a beach someplace. Have you noticed that? Now, I don't know how long you can sit on a beach, but for me, it's about a week. Okay? And then they'll show them driving not even a Mercedes anymore. They're driving a Ferrari, right? Or they're next to have you noticed that? They're next to a Learjet, or maybe the Ferrari's next to the Learjet. And the illusion is that's wealth. No, that's massive consumption. That's massive consumption. It's not wealth. That's the illusion, see? So dentistry is so far behind where the world of true management and leadership is. Dentistry is in the 1950s. It's where it's at. It's amazing. My lineage comes from MIT. That's where I do most of my work. I do not study people in dentistry because all they do is go to meetings and copy each other. When I do a seminar at a major meeting like the Himden meeting, every consultant in the United States is sitting in that office, in that audience, trying to listen to what I'm saying so they go home and copy it for somebody else because they're not smart enough to figure anything out themselves. I'm just saying that. So you have to be careful who you listen to. You have to be careful who you listen to. So, obviously, my lineage is with L.D. Pankey, good personal friend. Peter Dawson's a personal friend. I studied with Pete. Niles Goucher. I went through the bioaesthetic continuum. I mean, I've been training myself my whole life. 3 years in graduate school in Iowa and Perio. But a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is not technical. I'm going to be talking about what does it take to prepare yourself to live the way you want to live and also be able to practice dentistry the way you want to practice and enjoy it. That's what we're talking about. So a lot of my mentors on the dental side, I've already mentioned, Bob Barkley was a mentor, close personal friend. And what does he know? All I can bring to you is my experience. That's all I can bring to you. And so this, you could say, well, this is rather anecdotal. Well, over 3,000 dentists that we've kept data on, because we keep data on every conversation and every month of statistics we do for every client we work with. And we can compile that data and we research it and look at it. So that's what we know. I also would say, in all fairness, that there's 7 ways to heaven, and this is just one. I don't propose that this is like the answer for everyone. Okay? I'm not saying I know everything, because I'm still learning. I'm still practicing, and I'm learning every day when I practice. And I'm still learning every day when I'm doing my work and coaching and working with you guys. You know, I'm learning what people can do and can't do, what they're willing to do and not willing to do. I will tell you one thing that you do need to write down, and that is evident in Joseph Yousefian's success, and it's evident in the success of everybody I've ever worked with, and that is they're determined. They have determination, which is translated into will. Okay? Without determination and without desire, any opportunity that you come up with, you won't take advantage of. So determination and desire are keys to all successful people. And I don't know, for some people, you know this as well as I do, because you're dealing with people every day in your practice. Some people are more motivated than others. You know, they just are. But I can tell you, if you don't have goals going into next year, this year is likely to be a repeat of the last. It just is. It's just not that it's going to be bad. Do you follow me? But it's likely to be the same. It becomes Groundhog Day. Don't you get bored in dentistry? Dentists get bored. If you're not challenged, what you experience is boredom. If you are challenged and you have the skills to match the challenge, then you're in what Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. But then the challenges always increase a bit. But when you lose challenges, then you move over into boredom and frustration and depression. Okay? That's what happens. So, how we're going to work today, we're going to talk about principles. The principle is a foundational truth, something that's been proven to be true. And then we're going to convert principles into models. And then from models, we develop strategies. Everything I do is based on principles converted to models and then strategies. Now, strategies will vary depending upon, the type of practice you have, what you're trying to achieve. And from the strategies, we create systems, and from systems, create actions which produce results. So this is always the flow. Okay? So what models do, it gives us a framework to think about something. So we're going to look at some financial models today. We're going to keep our energy and effort around the arena of money and finance and creating wealth. But models are lenses that allow us to see more clearly and gives us a language to talk about complex things. In other words, anybody can make things more complex. What really good models do and really good management does, it simplifies things. It enables us to see more clearly. So my hope would be that at the end of this morning, you'd be able to see more clearly. And we can examine the parts, but we start with the whole, because looking at the whole, it simplifies. I mean, our lives are not that simple, okay? Especially in the world that we live in today. So there's integrity in a good model. Its core parts must be stable and universal. What that means is that if we're dealing with a financial principle, that financial principle would apply to my practice or my business. It would apply in my personal life, and I could also apply it in investing. Okay? A principle is a principle and thus has universal application. Okay? So, but there does need to be a lot of room because we're all different. We need to adapt the model to suit our own needs, to suit our own personality, to suit our own goals and objectives. Okay? That's what's cool about models. So then the ultimate worth of a model is the way users modify and adapt the model to suit their own needs. About 3 years ago, I did a lecture in Sarasota, Florida, and one of my students invited me to speak to the Dental Society down there. It was really interesting. He's driving me from the airport to my hotel, and he's saying, I got to confess something to you. And he's 10 years into this. He said, I've been talking about this like it was mine, like I developed it. I rarely say, Mike Schuster introduced this to me or the center introduced this to me. And I said, that's all right because you own it. You've been doing it long enough that you have interpreted it and it's into the marrow of your bones and now you own it. He said, that's right. He said, I couldn't live any other way than this. Okay? So as people use it, it becomes more and more their own. So now we're kind of into the head work, when the head. We're talking about, we're doing some theory, okay? But the reality is there's no learning that takes place today, because learning only takes place when you take an idea and you actually what? Use it and practice with it. So, this is one of my favorite quotes. If we all worked on the assumption of what was accepted as true is really true, there'd be little or no hope for advancement. Orville Wright. That's interesting. Okay? It's what you learn after you thought you knew everything that really is important. So there are two sides to this coin. Okay? You know, arrogance and ignorance are two sides of the same coin. Ignorant people act pretty much the same as arrogant people do. So I would ask, you know, you're not done learning yet. Are you still open to learning? Okay. I know when I was young, I was arrogant. That's when I made my most mistakes, the first 5 years of my practice in life. I thought I knew stuff I didn't know. Okay. Has that ever happened to anybody, or am I the only one? So, I think that this, and I've written about this in the newsletter, and I say it all the time, I think complexity is the number one problem of the century we live in. Just look at the traffic in Seattle. And I can tell you, it's not unique to Seattle. You go to Chicago, you go to Atlanta, you go to Charlotte, you go to Raleigh, you go to you go to Phoenix, go to Scottsdale, okay? So complexity. But under complexity, when things get complex, people tend to start getting confused, okay? They're not sure. What worked in the past doesn't necessarily work in the future. Let me give you just a little taste of what's ahead. Walmart. Everybody knows Walmart? 1.4 million employees. How many people visit Walmart stores every week? 171 million Americans visit a Walmart once a week. Now, it might be some of the same going back, but Walmart has a $4 prescription right now. You're all aware of that, yes, no? And that $4 subscription is circumventing insurance. Walmart is about ready to put physician stores in every Walmart in America because physicians have lost focus of primary care. They don't do primary care anymore because they all know that there's no money in primary care, so they're going out being surgeons and they're being this and they're being specialists. And the data shows that the health of America is going down as we increase our technology and specialization. That's interesting. So corporate America is going to take over the medical insurance system, and they're going to do it on their own. Because companies are going broke paying for disease care because they call health care disease. They call disease care health care, and it's a lie. It's disease care. And everything that's happened in medicine follows in dentistry between 5 to 7 years later. Is dentistry going to change? It's going to change radically. It's going to change so radically in the next 5 to 10 years that it's unlikely that you will recognize it. 70% of the dentists in America will not be in private practice anymore within a decade. You mark that down, it's true. 70% will be working for somebody else. Why? Because they can't compete. They can't differentiate themselves. They can't offer something that's really unique and different. This is fascinating stuff. But it's coming, and it's coming fast. Because I work with a lot of different dentists all over the country right now. Okay? Right now I'm in contact with 150 dentists that were at the center in one form or another. And some of them are really, really thriving, and some of them are really, really, really hurting. Okay? Because they don't understand that this is coming and that the world of commoditization is at our feet. The more commoditization, the more competition. It's just the way it works.